Okay, I want you to think about the last time you had a little money saved up. Maybe it was $400. Maybe you actually got it $800, even close to 1,000, and things were going okay. You were feeling good about it, and then something happened. The car needed a repair. Or there was a bill you forgot about. Or honestly, maybe nothing even happened. You just kind of spent it, and you were back to zero. Again. And the thing that really gets people is that this isn't a one-time event. This is a pattern. It happens once, you rebuild. Something comes up, you're back to zero. Once, rebuild, zero. Over and over. And at some point, you start to quietly wonder, is this just my life? Is $1,000 just some kind of invisible ceiling that I can never actually break through? Here's the answer. It's not your fault. But it is your responsibility to understand what's actually going on. Because the reason most people never make it past $1,000 in savings has almost nothing to do with how much money they make, and everything to do with something far more invisible than that. My name is John, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people stay stuck at the same financial starting line no matter how hard they try to move forward. If you're someone who has rebuilt your savings from zero more times than you can count, and still can't seem to break through to real financial stability, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today we're going deep on something that almost nobody in the personal finance world talks about honestly. The real psychological, neurological, and behavioral reasons why $1,000 feels like a wall instead of a stepping stone for most people. And more importantly, exactly what you do to finally break through it. Let's get into it. Section 1. The saving ceiling is real, and it's not what you think. Here's the thing. When most people can't save money, the standard financial advice they get goes something like this. Spend less, make more, cut the lattes, track your expenses, make a budget. And look, none of that advice is wrong exactly. But here's what most people don't realize. That advice assumes the problem is informational. It assumes you just don't know what to do. But you do know what to do. You've always known what to do. Spend less than you earn and save the difference. That's it. That's the whole formula. You've known that your entire adult life. And yet here you are, which means the problem is not information. The problem is something else entirely. According to a 2023 Federal Reserve report on the economic well-being of U.S. households, approximately 37% of Americans would struggle to cover an unexpected $400 expense using cash or its equivalent, not $4,000. $400. And this isn't just a low-income phenomenon. The data shows this pattern persisting well into middle-income households. People earning $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, who still cannot maintain a meaningful savings buffer. So what's actually going on? Why does a savings ceiling exist for so many people across so many income levels? The answer lives at the intersection of psychology, neuroscience, and something called financial identity. And once you understand all three, the ceiling doesn't just lower, it disappears. Section 2. The neuroscience of zero. Why your brain is comfortable being broke. Let me tell you something about your brain that nobody told you in school. Your brain has a powerful mechanism called a set point, a baseline state that it continuously works to maintain and return to. You've probably heard of this in the context of body weight, where research shows that people's bodies actively resist moving too far above or below a certain weight range. But here's what most people don't realize. The exact same set point mechanism operates around money. If you grew up in a household where money was always tight, where zero was a default, where the end of the month always felt like a scramble, your brain learned that as normal, not just emotionally normal, neurologically normal. Your brain's threat response system calibrated itself around scarcity as the baseline state. And here's the deeply uncomfortable implication of that. When you start to accumulate money above that baseline, when you get to $600, $800, $1,000, your brain doesn't feel achievement. It feels discomfort. It feels like something is off, like you're too far from your baseline. And the brain's response to that discomfort is to find ways to return to zero. Sometimes that looks like a genuine emergency. The car, the medical bill, the unexpected expense. But sometimes, and this is where it gets really interesting, it looks like unconscious self-sabotage, a sudden urge to spend, a forgotten bill that somehow slips through. An impulse purchase that feels completely justified in the moment. Not because you're reckless, but because your nervous system is trying to restore what it recognizes as normal. This is backed by research in behavioral economics and neuroscience. A foundational study from Princeton Neuroscience Institute found that experiencing scarcity, even temporarily, actually changes the way the brain allocates cognitive resources, creating what researchers Sendhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shaffer call a scarcity mindset. In their landmark book, Scarcity, they demonstrate that the mental load of financial stress actively reduces available cognitive bandwidth, equivalent, in their research, to a full night of lost sleep or a 13-point drop in IQ. You're not bad with money. You're operating with a cognitively compromised brain that was shaped by a financial environment you didn't choose. This is an excuse. It's a diagnosis. And a diagnosis is the first step toward a real solution. Section 3. Financial identity, the story you tell yourself about money. Now, you might be thinking, okay, John, the brain stuff is interesting, but I'm an adult. I can override my instincts. And to some extent, yes, you can, but there's a second layer to this that's even more powerful than your neurological set point, and it operates at the level of identity. Here's what I mean. Every one of us carries a story about who we are with money, and most of us inherited that story rather than chose it. Maybe your story sounds something like, I've never been good with money, or money always runs out in our family, or people like me don't build savings, or maybe it's subtler than that, just a deep, unexamined assumption that, all right, let's build the actual portfolio. And I want to be very specific here, because the account structure matters more than most people think, both for tax efficiency and for behavioral reasons. Account 1, your 401k or 403b, up to the employer match. If your employer offers any match at all, this is your first dollar, your second dollar, your third dollar, before anything else. A 50% employer match on the first 6% of your salary, which is a common structure, represents a guaranteed 50% return on that money before it's invested in a single thing. No investment in the history of finance reliably beats a guaranteed 50% immediate return. This is free money with a legal and contractual guarantee. Take all of it. Every dollar of match your employer offers. Inside your 401k, keep it simple. A target date fund set to your approximate retirement year. Or if those aren't available or have high fees, a simple S&P 500 index fund. Contribution rate set automatically through payroll. You never see the money. It never touches your checking account. It simply accumulates. Account 2, your Roth IRA. After capturing the full employer match, your next priority is maxing your Roth IRA. The 2024 contribution limit is $7,000 per year, $583 per month. If you can't max it right now, contribute whatever you can and increase it incrementally with every raise. The Roth IRA is the single most powerful wealth-building account available to most Americans, and here's why. You contribute after-tax dollars. The money grows completely tax-free, and qualified withdrawals in retirement, every dollar, including every dollar growth, come out with zero federal tax. On a $1 million portfolio, the difference between paying ordinary income tax on withdrawals and paying nothing is potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. Open a Roth IRA at Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. These three are the gold standard for low-cost, beginner-friendly investing. Inside the Roth IRA, choose one of the following, and I want you to hear me clearly when I say one. A total stock market index fund, an S&P 500 index fund, a target date index fund set to your retirement year. That's the entire menu. Pick one. Set up automatic monthly contributions. Done. Account 3, your taxable brokerage account. If you max your 401k match and max your Roth IRA, and you still have money to invest, which is a wonderful problem to have, a taxable brokerage account is your next stop. Same providers, same funds, same automatic contribution. The only difference is the tax treatment. Gains and dividends are taxable in the year they occur, rather than tax-deferred or tax-free. The priority order matters. For 401k match first, Roth IRA second, taxable brokerage third. This sequence maximizes the tax efficiency of your portfolio without requiring any active management or ongoing decision-making. Section 4, the fund, what you're actually buying. Let me spend a few minutes on the actual investment, because I think there's more confusion here than anywhere else. And the confusion is largely manufactured by an industry that profits from complexity. An index fund is a fund that simply owns every stock in a particular index, most commonly the S&P 500, which represents the 500 largest publicly traded companies in the United States. When you buy an S&P 500 index fund, you own a tiny piece of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Berkshire Hathaway, and 496 other companies, all in one fund, automatically rebalanced, automatically updated as the index changes. The alternative, and this is what most of the financial industry wants you to do, is to pay someone to actively manage a fund, choosing which stocks to buy and sell in an attempt to beat the index. This sounds compelling. It sounds like you're getting expertise, like you're getting an edge. Here's what most people don't realize about active management. According to the S&P Spiva report, the most comprehensive ongoing study of active fund performance, over any 15-year period, approximately 90% of actively managed funds underperform their benchmark index. 90%. And the ones that do outperform in one period almost never sustain that outperformance in the next period. The performance doesn't persist. What does persist is the fees, typically 0.5% to 1.5% per year for actively managed funds, compared to 0.03% to 0.10% for major index funds. Now let me show you what that fee difference actually costs. If you invest $300 per month for 40 years at 10% annual returns, you'd accumulate approximately $1.9 million in a low-cost index fund with a 0.05% expense ratio. The same $300 per month in an actively managed fund with a 1% expense ratio, just a 1% difference, produces approximately $1.5 million. The fee difference costs you approximately $400,000 over a 40-year period. For $100,000, for performance that is statistically likely to be worse than what you would have gotten from the index. This is why Warren Buffett, the greatest active investor in history, has repeatedly and publicly stated that for the average investor, a low-cost S&P 500 index fund will beat the results achieved by most investment professionals over time. Not because index funds are magic, but because low cost plus market returns plus time plus the removal of human emotional decision-making is a formula that is extraordinarily difficult to beat. Section 5. The timeline, what the machine produces. Let me lay out several specific timelines so you can see where you might fall and what the machine produces at different starting points and contribution levels. Because I think one of the reasons people don't start is that they can't visualize the outcome. And when you can't visualize the outcome, the present cost of the contribution feels more real than the future value of the portfolio. Scenario 1, starting at $200 per month, 40 years. At 7% real returns, approximately $525,000. At 10% nominal returns, approximately $1.27 million. Scenario 2, starting at $400 per month, 40 years. At 7% real returns, approximately $1.05 million. At 10% nominal returns, approximately $2.55 million. Scenario 3, starting at $400 per month, 30 years. At 7% real returns, approximately $486,000. At 10% nominal returns, approximately $905,000. Scenario 4, starting at $600 per month, 30 years. At 7% real returns, approximately $729,000. At 10% nominal returns, approximately $1.36 million. Look at the difference between Scenario 2 and Scenario 3. The contribution amount is the same, $400 per month. But starting 10 years earlier produces approximately $564,000 more at 7% returns and $1.65 million more at 10% returns. That 10-year head start is worth more than every single dollar contributed in Scenario 3. And then some. The firewall account lives at a completely different bank from your checking and spending accounts. Ideally a high-yield savings account. currently earning 4.5% to 5% APY at institutions like Ally, Marcus, or Discover, and it has no debit card attached to it. Accessing the money requires a deliberate transfer that takes 2 to 3 business days. That friction is not a bug. It's the entire point. Research from behavioral economist Richard Thaler shows that adding even small amounts of friction to financial decisions reduces impulsive spending by up to 30%. The 2-day delay is enough time for an impulse to pass, for the genuine emergency to be distinguished from the perceived emergency, for your rational brain to catch up with your emotional brain. The fourth piece is automating the contribution before your brain can argue. You've heard the pay yourself first concept, but here's the specific version that actually works. Your savings contribution gets automated to transfer on the same day your paycheck arrives, not the next day, not when you get around to it, the same day, before the money touches your checking account, before your brain calculates what's available, before the spending decisions of the month can claim it. A study by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that people who automated their savings contributions saved on average 81% more over a 5-year period than those who transferred money manually, not slightly more. 81% more. The automation removes the decision from the equation entirely, and removing the decision removes the willpower requirement, and removing the willpower requirement removes the most unreliable variable in your entire financial system. The fifth piece, and this one is the one most people skip, is building what I call a micro-emergency fund inside your checking account. This is $200 to $300 that sits permanently in your checking account as a buffer, money that is not available to spend in your mental accounting, but that absorbs the small unexpected hits before they touch your real savings. The parking ticket, the prescription refill, the minor unexpected expense. When this buffer exists, small financial surprises stop bleeding into your savings account, and the cycle of save, get hit, go back to zero is interrupted at the source. Section 6. The compound effect of stability. What changes when you break through? Here's something I want you to understand that doesn't get talked about enough. Breaking through the $1,000 ceiling isn't just financially important. It's psychologically transformative in ways that compound. When you have a real emergency fund, when you have 3 months of expenses sitting safely in a firewall account, something changes in your nervous system. The chronic background stress of financial precarity, the low-level anxiety that your brain has been running on for years, starts to lift. And that change is not just emotional, it's cognitive. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that chronic financial stress activates the same neurological pathways as physical threats, keeping the brain in a mild but persistent fight-or-flight state. And a brain in fight-or-flight makes worse decisions. It's more impulsive, more short-term focused, less capable of long-term planning, more prone to the kind of spending that feels urgent in the moment and regrettable the next morning. But here's what most people don't realize. When that financial stress is removed, the brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning, reasoning, and long-term decision-making, becomes more accessible. You literally become better at financial decisions when you have financial stability. Not because you're smarter, because your brain has the cognitive space to work properly. This is where it gets really interesting, because the compound effect isn't just financial. Breaking through $1,000, building to $3,000, then $10,000. Each threshold creates a new neurological set point. Your brain recalibrates. The new number becomes the new normal. The new normal becomes the new floor. And suddenly you're not fighting your own psychology anymore. You're working with it. Section 7. The math of breaking through. Putting a number on the timeline. I want to make this tangible, because I think the reason a lot of people give up is that the goal feels abstract and the timeline feels infinite. So, let's put some real numbers on this. Let's say you currently have zero saved. Your take-home pay is $3,200 per month. You commit to automating $150 per month. That's less than $40 per week, less than $6 a day, into a firewall high-yield savings account on payday. At that rate, here's your timeline. Month 7. You cross $1,000 for the first time. But this time it doesn't get spent, because it's in a separate account with friction and a clear purpose. Month 10. You're at $1,500, a genuinely meaningful buffer. By month 20, you're at $3,000. By month 33, you've crossed $5,000. That's the first real threshold of financial security for most households. And this is at $150 per month, an amount that for many people is genuinely achievable, even on a tight income, through a combination of small expense reductions and deliberate redirection. Now add the interest. A 4.75% APY high-yield savings account on a $5,000 balance earns roughly $237 per year in interest alone. That's not life-changing by itself. But psychologically, seeing your money grow passively, seeing the account go up on a day when you didn't deposit anything, does something important. It makes the account feel alive. It makes saving feel generative rather than restrictive. And that shift in feeling is what converts saving from a chore into an identity. Closing, motivation, and call to action. Look, I want to be direct with you about something before we close out. The reason this particular topic matters so much is because $1,000, or the inability to get past it and keep it, is genuinely one of the most painful places to be financially. Not because of the dollar amount, but because of what it means emotionally. Every time you rebuild and lose it, there's a small voice somewhere that says, maybe this is just how things are for me. Maybe I'm just not capable of this. Maybe financial stability is for other people. And I need you to hear this clearly. That voice is a liar. It is a well-meaning liar, shaped by neuroscience and conditioning, and a financial system that was never designed to make it easy for regular people to save. But it is a liar. The problem was never your discipline. It was never your intelligence. It was never your character. It was a savings target that was too low to be meaningful, a brain that was calibrated for scarcity, an identity that was inherited rather than chosen, and a system that put your savings one tap away from your spending urges. All of those things are fixable. Every single one of them. Open the account this week. Not this month. This week. Automate $50 if that's all you can do right now. Put it somewhere with friction. Give it a name. Emergency fund, freedom fund. Never zero again. Whatever makes it feel real and purposeful to you. And then leave it alone. Let it grow. Let your brain recalibrate. Let the new normal replace the old one. Because here's the truth about the $1,000 ceiling. It's not a ceiling at all. It's a door. And the only thing that was ever keeping it closed was not having the right key. You have the key now. Go use it. If this video landed for you, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are stuck at zero and need to hear that it's not their fault, but it is their move. Subscribe if you haven't already, because every week we're breaking down the psychology and the math of money in plain English. And if you want to go deeper on this, I've got a video on exactly how to set up the automated savings system we talk about today, step by step, so that the money moves itself before your brain even knows it's gone. That's the next step. It's linked right up here. I'll see you in the next one.